If you hate your job and you want to do something more meaningful, listen up. Because number one, hating your job comes with a lot more consequences than you might think. And number two, you really can quit and do something meaningful, but there is a specific formula you must follow in order to do that. Many people don't know about this formula, and that's why they get it wrong and stay stuck. A global poll done by Gallup shows that 80% of people are unhappy at their job. That means that 8 out of 10 people that you see walking down the street are doing something that they hate for 8 hours of the day just to get a paycheck. That sucks. Hating what you do for 8 hours out of every day comes with all types of problems, such as not feeling like you're making a difference in the world, anxiety, depression, insomnia, not showing up for your kids or your spouse like you could be, and that lingering feeling that there's got to be more to life, that you could be making a bigger difference in the world, stretching your creativity, and helping people. I worked in corporate America for 3 years after college, and I felt that way every day. I was so jealous of anybody who did something cool for their job, like a musician or an artist or an author. I would think to myself, how are these people paying their bills? How are they even getting away with this? I also felt depressed on a regular basis. I would wake up to my annoying ass alarm clock at 6:15 in the morning and just stare up at the ceiling fan. And I couldn't believe that I was about to spend another day of my life sitting in a cubicle, just faking my way through it just for a paycheck. My girlfriend then, who is now my wife, even called me out. She said, "I think you could be happier." I knew that I had to do something or we were going to come to some pretty dire consequences, so I flat out quit. I had no plan of what to do next. I quickly ran out of money, and that landed me working at this natural grocery store in Tennessee, and I was the produce guy. So I would wear an apron and walk around and hydrate the heads of lettuce and make the apples all stacked in a nice pile. It was around that time that I also started diving into books. For the first time, I was reading the 4-Hour Work Week and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And for some reason, I was all of a sudden, me as an introvert, going up and talking to people in the grocery store who would come in, and I'd say, are you from here? What do you do for a living? And anytime I met an entrepreneur, I got fascinated by it, and I would carry their groceries out to their car just so I could talk to them for longer. I'd be like, how did you start this business? And how do you earn a living? And is this something that anybody can do? I was just so interested in this world where people were somehow supporting themselves, paying their bills without having a job, without having a boss. Ultimately, I found a local mentor, a guy who flipped houses. He was one of the people I met in the grocery store, and he agreed to mentor me and teach me his ways. He taught me how to find properties, and I found him a house. I just saw an ugly house and I mailed a letter to it, and the landlord called me and said, yeah, I need to sell that thing. So I connected her with him. He buys the house, invites me to lunch at this Indian restaurant, and when we get there, he slides a $1,000 check across the table. And that was when everything changed for me. I was like, holy shit, I just made $1,000 in 3 hours worth of work. And I didn't have a job. I made the money on my own. There was no boss. I just went out and did it essentially as an entrepreneur. And at lunch, he said, yeah, you did this in 3 hours. Imagine how much money you could make if you did this full time. And that was all I needed to hear. I quit my job and started finding properties for him full time. I probably found him a total of 8 or 9 properties. I made $1,000 each time. And then I felt ready to go out on my own. And instead of referring those deals to him, actually buying the houses myself. And I learned how to flip houses and buy rental properties. In my first 12 months as a real estate investor, I made $130,000, which was over double what I had ever made working at any job before. And within 3 years, I was earning more than most CEOs earn at big companies just with my little local house flipping business. By the time I was 30 years old, I had 35 rental properties, and I was essentially financially free. Now, there was a ton of trial and error in there, There was at least 3 times where I lost over $50,000 trying to flip a house. However, there were a few things that were in place that allowed me to have that success, and I boiled it down to these 3 things. Number 1 is a willingness to learn. Something snapped in me when I started working at that grocery store. I just knew things had to be different, and I was going to have to change before anything else changed. And so I started to make myself vulnerable, to admit that I knew very little, to realize that my situation of having jobs that I hated was dire, and it was affecting my health and my sanity, and it was not getting me anywhere in life. And that led me to being very open to talking to people and to asking for help and to reading books. And when I opened, that was the big shift that allowed me to start making positive progress towards the lifestyle I actually wanted. Number 2 was a rising market. So I don't have the Midas touch. A lot of the reason why I was able to buy all those properties and then have them appreciate a ton over time was because I got into real estate in 2011 when everything was cheap. And you guys have seen what it has done, especially over the last few years. And so a big part of success is being at the right place at the right time and kind of identifying where is that next wave that you can ride up. Right now, real estate is not in a space where it's the highest opportunity. It's kind of inflated and competitive. However, I think this is the best possible time for you to start a personal brand online. I think that is the next wave that we're going to be riding up. Number 3 is choosing what you are passionate about. Now, this is something that I actually got wrong, and had I not gotten it wrong, I could probably be a lot more successful than I am today. I'm going to share what I would do differently if I could do all of this over again. And in order to do so, I need to get back to the story. So I was about 30 years old. I had achieved financial freedom through real estate, and I still just kept doing house flips for another 2 or 3 years after that. But honestly, that whole time, I was kind of just burned out on it. I didn't really feel like I was going anywhere. Goals of more and more money were not what I wanted. I didn't feel like I was actually making much of a difference in the world or helping people. And that fatigue I had actually started to show itself in our business. I wasn't making the best decisions anymore. Our profits started to go down, and looking back, I almost feel like I was subconsciously self-sabotaging the business, trying to find a way out. That ultimately led to me making the tough decision to shut down my real estate business entirely. I kept the rental properties and I started coaching other people on how to buy their first rental property. Now, this essentially hit the reset button on my income. I did make about $90K in my first 12 months in the coaching space, but I was busting my ass in order to hit that revenue goal, and it was still a lot less than I was used to making. Fast forward 2 more years and I had things going a little better. I had coached around 250 students on how to buy their first properties, and my coaching business was making around 25 grand per month. Now, again, everything seemed awesome on the outside, but on the inside, I was so tired of coaching real estate. If I had to run the numbers on another rental property, I was going to go crazy. But at the same time, I absolutely loved the online coaching industry. This was all I learned about. This is all I cared about. And I decided to do a beta program where I told my real estate clients that if you want to start a coaching business, I've got an 8-week workshop where I'm going to show you how I did mine. I had 3 people sign up, and I had the most fun delivering that program. I could just feel it in my energy. I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And one of the guys who joined that program went on to be more successful than me, doing like 50 to 100 grand per month as a coach, and he has 40 rental properties. So I pivoted once again, and I hit the reset button on my income once again. I shut down real estate coaching, and I started helping people start coaching businesses. Now I get to wake up and create content about the topics that I love. The stuff that I'm learning is aligned with the stuff that I'm teaching. I work 4 hours per day from the coffee shop and earn a great living. And I really love what I do. And I feel like for the first time, I've arrived at what feels like is going to be my career forever. If you know, you know, once you get there, it's like finding your soulmate. You're just like, this is my person. Well, this is the business model for me. But as you can tell, it was a pretty curvy road for me to get here. I hit several dead ends. So if I could get in a time machine and go talk to my 26-year-old self and tell him how to do things differently, here are the 3 tips that I would give him. Number 1 is I would tell myself to create a personal brand online. Mr. Beast is 25 years old and he makes over $50 million per year. The way that he does that is essentially that he has built a huge audience through mastering online media, in his case, videos. Because he has this audience, he can literally do whatever he wants. He just started a virtual burger chain called Mr. Beast Burger, which doesn't even cook its own burgers. They just partner with local burger restaurants all over the US. I was even at a YouTube conference in LA where Mr. Beast spoke, and they provided Mr. Beast burgers like at the lunch session or whatever. I didn't get to try one because they didn't have any veggie burgers, but everybody said they were delicious, and he absolutely sells out of these burgers every time he promotes it. I mean, like, there are huge lines out the door of people waiting to get a Mr. Beast burger. And again, he doesn't even have a physical location. When you start creating content online, you establish yourself as an authority and opportunities start to come to you. In the past 3 weeks, I've had 2 companies reach out to me offering to pay me to make YouTube videos for them where I review their products. And another company reached out offering to pay me $200 for every email that I write for their company because I wrote books and put them on Amazon, and they're like, oh, you're a writer, you'd be good at this. I haven't accepted any of these offers because they don't necessarily make sense for me, but this is the power of having a personal brand and just having some attention, which my social media accounts are tiny compared to most people's, but still, if you put in the work, then the opportunities will start to come to you. So if I had started my personal brand around 2011, imagine how much further I would be along today. So if I could talk to myself in 2011, I would say, dude, fuck all this real estate stuff and just go all in on building your personal brand online, because attention is the new oil. The more attention you hold, the more eyeballs you have, the more money you make, and all the work you do just compounds upon itself. Number 2 is I would tell myself to solve your own problems and then sell the solution. So if 26-year-old Brian back in 2011 heard that advice about creating a personal brand, he would have been like, well, how am I going to make money doing this? And that is a valid question. To answer this question, we have to start by talking about how money is made. It took me 10 years to figure this out. So we don't really make money. What we do is we provide value to the market. And when we do that, we are paid money back. So the money is actually a repayment for the value that we've already offered. So the better question, instead of how can I make money, is how can I provide value? Because money only follows value. So 2011 Brian would not have known how to start a personal brand. How do you start a YouTube channel? How do you film a video? How do you create a website? And he would have had to solve those problems. And after he figured out how to create a website successfully, he could have charged other people to show them how to do it, or to do it for them. And that would be a way to monetize along his own journey. So solving this problem of the website and then selling the solution to the people who are still a couple steps behind. The traffic from his personal brand would result in customers and clients for that offer because he would be posting consistently, building up his social media and his email list. And number 3, I would tell 26-year-old me to productize yourself. So one of my favorite books is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it's the book that got me into real estate in the first place. In the book, he talks about how to make your dollars work for you, how every dollar you invest is like a little soldier that's out there working for you. And once you put enough of your money to work for you, then you can stop working for money. I realize that this is true not not just of the dollars that we invest, but also of the projects and the endeavors that we decide to take on. That's why I like writing books, and why I've published 2 and I'm almost done with number 3, is that every book that I've published, not only does it make me a couple $100 in passive income, but it brings in high ticket clients for me every month without me having to really do much lifting, because the book sells on its own and then people read it and then they're warmed up and they're ready to work with me. So I love putting my energy into things like that. This concept of productizing yourself was made popular by the serial entrepreneur Naval Ravikant in a tweet thread of his, and it really hit me hard. And so what I would tell, 2011 Brian, when he was building his personal brand, solving his own problems, and then selling the solution, is I'd say, create a course or an ebook or a physical book or something about how to build a website. And then that thing can sell on its own and make you money and also bring you clients without you having to work. You could just sell it on your website. You could toss it on Amazon. But either way, it's you packaging up what you know into a product that then can teach hundreds or thousands of people at the same time, so you don't have to sit there and keep repeating yourself. I never wrote a real estate book, and I really wish I would have, but I just don't have it in me to write that book today. However, I did create a 30+ hour course on how to buy your first rental property. I chucked it on Udemy last year, and it has sold almost 1,000 copies on there and makes like $250 a month. And I get messages a couple times a month from someone who's like, "Thank you so much for your course. It helped me so much." And so the version of me that was the real estate expert continues to live on in the form of a product that is that course. And those are the types of things you want to leave behind, to leave in your trail as you go on this journey of building your brand and figuring out your own problems. That is kind of the ultimate path to succeeding with a business that you really love what you do. You get to keep growing, and then you sell what you already know to make money. Really, the perfect business model that brings this all together is the knowledge business or the coaching business. So you're building that brand, and then you are creating courses and books and coaching to help with the stuff that you already learned. And one of the biggest considerations when you get into the coaching space initially is to choose your niche. You don't want to just be totally watered down, I just will teach you mindset or confidence or personal development. There's a few steps you can take to go a little tighter than that when it comes to the different products and offerings that you actually sell. If you want some help with this, I've written a book called Nail Your Niche. You can get it for $5, including the audiobook and some bonuses at nailyourniche.net. And lastly, if you're still a little unsure of what you should actually do with your life, I made this video on how to figure out what to do with your life that I think will pair well with what we talked about here. You can opt into my newsletter if you want to see an email from me every week with a link to a video like this as well. Links in the description for that. Please subscribe. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you next time.